So I'm going to be telling you about what it's like at Bound Brook and how to tell things so that you are not totally lost when you go there for the first time. Alright, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to throw out there that Metro North is not normal here, and it was pretty cool to see it, I'm not going to lie. So at first you might be looking at this and you may be like, wow, there's a bunch of lines here, this is a total clusterfuck, I'm never going to get this. And that's cool, that's okay. So we're going to do this line by line, one by one, and we're going to start with the Raritan Valley line. So the Raritan line's pretty simple. Basically it goes west to Raritan and east to Newark Penn Station. On the weekdays you could see it go east to New York Penn Station or west all the way to Highbridge. And most of what you're going to see on this line is going to be ALP 45s and multi-levels. There are two single-level sets that the line has that do run back and forth on the weekdays with a PL42AC or an ALP, and they mostly have a string of Comet 2s followed by a Comet 5 as the cab car. And there is one Jeep that is stored in the engine house in Raritan Yard in case something goes wrong. So next we're going to go over the line that pretty much everybody comes to Bound Brook to see, and that is the Conrail Lehigh line. So this is where it gets kind of fishy, because what the Conrail Lehigh line is in Bound Brook is a combination of the Norfolk Southern Lehigh line and the CSX Trenton subdivision that come together and go through Bound Brook as one, and I will explain this as thoroughly as I possibly can. So the first thing that I want to talk about with freight in Bound Brook is the interlocking that is just west of the station, which means that there are signals just west of the station. And this is important because when it comes to westbounds, the dispatcher controls the signals rather than the signals being block signals, which means that the dispatcher decides whether or not the signal goes to a clear versus a stop, which is their default value. So essentially, if a signal is anything except for a stop, there is a guaranteed westbound train coming. In this situation, when both of the mainline signals aren't red, that means that both of the mainline tracks have a guaranteed westbound train coming. Now you just have to gamble as to which one's going to come first and if the other one's going to be blocked. So we're going to take a little field trip west a couple miles from Bound Brook to Manville, because this is where Port Reading Junction is, which is the interlocking between the CSX Trenton sub and the Norfolk Southern Lehigh line. And I would just like to note that in terms of this map, Bound Brook is located towards the upper right corner where the blue line is going, which represents the Conrail Lehigh line. You will also notice that there is a yard right here, and that is Manville Yard, which is the origin of all of the locals that run through Bound Brook. But anyways, that's enough about Manville. I just wanted to cover basically that the yard is down there and that the two lines come together to make one, and that both the lines do go through Bound Brook. So let's go back. So since the Lehigh line basically runs right next to the Raritan Valley line, starting at Bound Brook going east for a couple of miles, the ideal spot that railfans like to stand is on the eastbound platform. However, you do have to be careful doing this because New Jersey Transit is an active station and there are passengers that are constantly coming and going. So you don't want to get in anyone's way who has a ticket and has a right to be there. So now that we've pretty much gone over the stuff having to do with the Conrail Lehigh line, we're going to move on to its less used little brother, the Port Reading Secondary. The Port Reading Secondary is a less used Conrail line that branches off of the Lehigh line at CP Bound Brook, aka Bound Brook Interlocking. And this is the line that mostly carries the Norfolk Southern ethanol trains going to Linden, and also is serviced by a Conrail local that is out of Manville. So now that I think about it, there's really not a lot to go over with the secondary, so we're going to move on and we're going to go over the Bound Brook Interchange and Bound Brook Yard. What the interchange track basically is the connector between the Lehigh line and the Raritan line, allowing trains to go from one to the other. This track goes right through the Bound Brook station, and in order for passengers to get to the serviced eastbound NJ Transit platform, they have to walk over this track via paved pedestrian crossings. This may sound unsafe, but the interchange track is only used once in a blue moon in daylight, and the crews that use this track take precautions to ensure that nobody accidentally gets hurt. Oftentimes when they run trains on this track, they'll do so when passengers are not at the station, either late at night or right after the passengers have already boarded their train. Manville-based freight local MA20 is the one train that is known to regularly use this track, and it only operates at night later than 11:30 or midnight. Bound Brook Yard has a slightly different story. It's a couple tracks of hoppers that run along the Raritan Valley line just west of the station, with another track that could be used for MOW or whatever the railroads decide to use it for. This yard is switched out maybe once every couple weeks or so in the daytime by Manville-based local MA2. Aside from the one local that comes and services the yard, the interchange nor the yard really see that much daytime action, so it's not something to be expected when going, but it's not something you should be surprised by either. Alright, well I think I covered pretty much the basics. The rest of it you could just pick up as you go along. The lighting might not be the best, and there's a crowd there most of the time, but if you want to see a lot of trains and you want to meet a lot of good people, I think Bound Brook's a great place to go, and I highly encourage everyone to at least try it out. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.